Hello retro gamers and other possible viewers, and welcome to a new series for the channel called Retro Unrelated. In this new series we'll be looking at old electronics that don't really have anything to do with gaming. See, the reason for this channel is I have three major interests: old things, gaming, and of course making videos. Retro gaming in this channel combines all three, but I also collect other junk as well, and basically always have. So this won't be a very common video for the channel, but it's one I'd like to make every now and again just to break up the content. So yeah, I would love to hear what you think and let me know if you want to see more. And yeah, let's get into it. The first subject of this series is right here on my wrist. This is the Seiko Chronograph M929-5000, and the reason I'm choosing this first is because it is one of my most recent purchases, and I've also just fixed it, so all the information surrounding that is still fresh in my mind. I will be splitting this video into two segments. The first, I will be looking at the watch itself, we'll be looking at the features, as well as a bit of history about it. The second segment, and I'm deliberately doing this as the second segment because I know not everyone will be interested, I will be looking into repairing it, because I did buy it for $2 from a thrift store, unworking. I got it working, as you can see. So the second segment will be a repair log of sorts. So stick around if you're interested in that, but otherwise, let's take a look at the actual watch itself. Vintage digital watches have made somewhat of a comeback, and the originals, as well as the recreations, are fashionable, worn by celebrities and the like. I mean, not that I'd know anything about that, but one look on Casio's website proves that they're really trying to push it. We won't be looking at a Casio today or even a pricey recreation, but a real-to-the-life original released in the late 1970s. This is the Seiko Chronograph M929-5000. You've likely heard of Seiko before. Founded in 1917 in Tokyo, it namely manufactured timekeeping devices before forming into a holding company of the same name that now sells a lot of different things, including semiconductors, believe it or not. Focusing back on watches though, Seiko was notable as they were the first company to release a quartz watch and then later a quartz chronograph, both of which are features of this watch. I'll point out straight away that there is hardly any information about this watch online. Seiko did do a lot of advertising that year, but none for this watch. However, one online source claims that it was released September 1979. I'm led to believe that September might be incorrect because of the production number stamped on the base of my own unit. Mine has the numbers 955299, which, according to some internet sleuthing, means a year ending in 9, the month of May, with it being the 5000th, 299th unit manufactured. The reason I'm certain that it was at least released in 1979 is because of Seiko's official catalogue for that year, which someone has helpfully converted into PDF. And boy oh boy, Seiko sure did release a lot of watches that year. This is one of two catalogues as well, showcasing hundreds of different watches. If you dig hard enough though, you'll eventually find this watch along with two other colour variants. It's here we finally get some concrete information straight from the lion's den. It retailed for 15,000 yen in 1979. If you're wondering how much that is worth now, various internet conversion and inflation calculator websites have led me to believe that it was worth about $250 American in today's money. However, what does that Japanese text say below it? Google Translate has done a smack-up job as per usual and thinks that it means 8 reads or 8 return. Luckily, my girlfriend has a friend living in Japan who speaks the language, who said it says something more like hard rex or hard reeks. Oh, a short Google search later, it turns out it means hardlex glass. Phew, what a journey. For those not in the know about hardlex glass, I'll quote directly from a poorly formatted paragraph on Seiko's own website. This is a toughened mineral crystal glass developed by the Seiko Watch Corporation, which is highly resistant to knocks and scratching. Hardlex glass is standard in most Seiko, Pulsar, and Loris models. Well, there you go. But sadly, I've been able to find zilch otherwise about this watch online, not even reviews in magazines of the time. In fact, I couldn't find any magazines that featured digital watches of the day. If you're aware of any, please let me know as they may help with future episodes. So, with all that out the way, let's take a look at the actual watch itself. Now this, of course, all comes down to personal preference, but I found this watch to be very attractive. The stainless steel mixed in with what we now know as hardlex glass creates a very striking look. Additionally, its flat, small and square nature fits nicely on my wrist. You see, I have embarrassingly thin wrists, which is one reason why I'm still staying away from smartwatches, as they're usually quite large and just look weird on me. Even the Pebble, the only smartwatch I have owned, looked quite large and that would be considered quite small to modern counterparts.
Regardless, my wrist actually looks massive while I'm wearing this, which makes me feel better about my usually unmanly appearance. Tiny wrists, man. I blame them for all my life shortcomings actually. Onto the display and functions. On the main function screen, you'll see the time in hours, minutes, and seconds in 12-hour time. It'll also tell you what day of the week it currently is, just in case that's something you routinely forget. The date, which is something a bit more reasonable to disremember, can be found by holding down the top right button. Pressing the mode button once will bring you to the stopwatch feature. Here, you can time things for up to 12 hours. Pressing the bottom right button will reset it to 0, meaning you can do it all again for hours of enjoyment. Pushing the mode button again will take you to the counter function. Here, you can have two instances where you can hold numbers of things you've counted. Both numbers can go to 99, meaning you can count anything you want. I, for example, could count every tree in my yard, while additionally using the second counter to count every leaf on each tree. Loads of fun! Pushing the mode button yet again will take you to a final screen where you can set the time and date. Very useful. The coolest feature for the time, I'm sure, is the backlight. While not a backlight per se, there is a tiny bulb on the left side that will illuminate the numbers if you want to know what the time is while in the dark. While not an even illumination, I'm impressed that this watch has a light at all. Although, since it's not LED, it will probably drain your battery if used too much. Other cool features include the fact that it is water resistant, a feature very important to athletes and rainwalkers alike, and the semi-adjustable band. Ultimately, you can put any band you like on this, but for a stock inclusion, I think it's functional and decent enough in appearance. Ultimately, I am a fan of this watch and have been wearing it consistently daily since I got it working. And I'm not the only one who thinks it's cool. If you want a working version of this on eBay, it's not very cheap. One example of the price I can find as of making this video is $175 American, which would indicate that it's held its original value quite well. However, I was unable to find any sold or completed listings, so I'm not sure how much people actually pay for these. Remember, just because someone has listed a price of something on eBay, it definitely doesn't mean it's worth that in real life. Ultimately, it's worth as much as people are willing to pay.
Okay, as promised, I will now be taking you through my repair log. The sort of sucky thing about this is I didn't take any video as I was doing it, which I usually do if I'm repairing or modding consoles. I did, however, take a lot of photos, so this is going to be a lot of my face talking to you right now, and then a lot of photos that I've taken shown in a slideshow sort of manner, so get excited! So as I said before, I bought this in an op shop for $2. There was nothing on the screen when I bought it, it was completely blank. The lady so helpfully in the store said it probably needed a new battery, which was basically what I was hoping on when I first bought it. I've never owned a watch like this before, and to get the battery cover off requires a special tool because it is water resistant. It sort of like seals into place, and there's a seal, like you can't flip it off of a flat-headed screwdriver or just unscrew it with your fingers. It's a special tool. Usually you have to go to a watch shop to do this. I originally tried getting it off using flat-headed screwdrivers, and this ended in me accidentally scratching the surface of the bottom, so I wasn't very happy about that. I did end up going on eBay and spending a whole $8 and buying the tool, which I would recommend doing yourself if you're in the same sort of situation that I was in. I did actually go to a watch shop, and the lady said she would charge me $10 to own it. Already owned it. $10 to open it. And I was like, yeah, sure, because I was pretty much sick of not being able to open it myself at that point. However, when I went and picked it up, she said, you know what, it's fine. And she didn't charge me any money, so that was really nice of her. So opening it up for the first time, I pulled a very old battery out that had corroded everywhere. So I went straight to an electronics store, I bought a new battery, and of course, nothing happened. So as you can see here in the first photo, there is lots of corrosion everywhere. You can see all these little green bits all over the metal. So luckily the entire module itself popped out quite easily, and inside the actual battery case itself you could also see lots of corrosion there right on the buttons, and on some of the buttons it actually completely worn away on the like the nubs of the buttons. Luckily this didn't impact anything. So first thing I did was clean it up basically using white vinegar, because vinegar just eats away at corrosion. It works a lot better than isopropyl alcohol does, which is what I usually use. To take the module apart, it's all basically held together by this plate on the top, and there's 4 little screws they're just like flat-headed screws. They come out, but they are very tiny. So I had to use the smallest and magnetic flat-headed screwdriver I could find, and I still accidentally scratched up that plate a little bit doing it, which kind of sucks, but not as bad as the plate that held in, you know, the whatever you call this thing. So pulling it apart, and I get to the main electronics module where all the magic happens. And in these photos here, I think I've already cleaned them up. I think I forgot to take before shots, unfortunately. But as you can see, it's covered in contacts and they were completely filthy. So I cleaned all those up, and then I pulled apart the LCD plate, I guess. It was actually in 4 pieces. There's the actual LCD plate itself that shows all the numbers and all that, a reflective plate on the bottom of that to reflect light, and then these 2 little rectangular blocks that act as, I guess, some sort of current transfer. They transfer the energy from the module, which is connected to the battery, and that connects it into the LCD plate, if you sort of get where I'm going at. So I cleaned this with rubbing alcohol, and it kind of is still filthy, but in actual use later on it still looks okay. So even though there is quite a bit of filth around there which I wasn't able to get off, it didn't actually end up impacting it, which was quite fortunate. And then in these 2 photos you can basically just see the casing that held everything together. Fun fact, that little contact there that holds the battery in, if you lose one of those and need to buy a replacement part online, it will cost you $15. $15 for this little piece of metal. So I put everything back together, and then I cleaned out all that corrosion as well that was on the inside of the case. And as you can see, that made a mega difference. There was so much of it in there just clumped together that, you know, vinegar and a Q-tip made easy work of it. And putting it all back together made the backlight work, which was quite encouraging at the time. I guess the right contacts were cleaned. I guess the actual bulb itself isn't connected into the electronics of the actual quartz or the chronograph. It must be on its own little separate circuit that connects up to the battery, and obviously the positive and the negative lines of that circuit are all working fine. However, that is as far as I ever got with that particular circuit block, which I think is the actual term for it. I pulled it all apart again, and I started going to town with the rubbing alcohol, hoping that I could sort of get the last mile of cleaning done. And while it was very clean and there was a lot of gunk that I cleaned off, the best I got at that point was some random flashing numbers. So there was current being applied to it, but I think at the end of the day, all the battery corrosion had just fuzzed it too much. It wasn't going to work. So I was a bit stuck, because this is probably the oldest electronics I've ever worked on, but also the smallest. So I was learning a lot of new things, but I was also a little bit out of my depth, if you know what I mean. So I went to a watch forum, a watch repair forum specifically, to ask for help. Now, most of the forum posts on there were about analog watches, not digital watches. Even though a lot of the watches on there were from the same vintage, while a lot of the people on there were quite nice and well-meaning, they ultimately, they knew as much as I did. However, one very nice forum poster found the original repair guide for this from the late 70s in PDF form, which is amazing that it exists at all. And when you Google the watch, it's actually one of the few things that pops up, as I mentioned in the earlier segment when I could find absolutely nothing about this watch. But the fact that this exists was insanely helpful. So at that stage in the repair, I was thinking that it may have actually been the LCD that was the problem. Maybe contact wasn't being made properly. I don't know, but one of the sections of the repair manual states that if you basically apply 3 volts to the LCD, there's a negative on one end, and then you can just run the positive lead along all these contacts and it shows all the different segments. Now, I don't have any video footage of this, unfortunately, which is probably the main thing I'm regretting not filming, but I just got like a little 2 AA battery holder, because 2 times 1.5 equals 3, who would have known? And yeah, I was able to successfully test the LCD and all the segments lit up fine. So that led me to believe that it was actually the circuit block that was the problem, which would make sense because of all the corrosion. So there was another test I could do for that. Basically, you test 2 contacts on the circuit board with a multimeter, and basically there's a tolerance of 0.8 volts. If it's above this, I think I might be getting this the wrong way around, but if it is above this, then it's working fine. If it is below that, it's broken. And yeah, I got below 0.8 volts, which is another thing I regret not filming, because at that stage I wasn't planning on making this video. So yeah, basically at that point I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? And reading the repair guide basically says replace the circuit block. So at that point I was like, well damn, because you know, this watch is from the 1970s, how the hell am I going to do that? So just in case, I went on eBay, and it turns out there are sellers on there selling these official spare parts in new old condition, still sealed. So from the late 70s, manufactured by Seiko, but it's the exact replacement part that I need. Not cheap, however, but the fact that they exist is amazing, and I couldn't believe my luck. So I had a look at a couple of auctions, well, buy it now, so I don't think there are any auctions, and I had a bit of a look around their website, see what I could find was the cheapest. Ended up finding a seller in the Philippines. He was selling it for 50 American dollars, but you could put in an offer, which the others couldn't. So I put in an offer of $43. Honestly, I lowballed it. I was hoping for more like 45, you know how these things work. Yeah, and the guy accepted $43. So like 2 weeks later, the module arrived in brand new condition, still sealed, and it was nicely packed, by the way. It came in like this little, I should have taken a better photo, but basically it was like these 2 pieces of wood, and that was like the packaging, and then it was like vacuum sealed in plastic. It was really nice. I gave them good feedback. And here is the actual replacement part itself, still in its original plastic wrapping with its original part number, paper, blah blah blah. So yeah, here we have a photo comparing the old module compared to the new module. So the old module's on the right hand side, new one's on the left. You can't really tell the difference looking at this photo. However, if you look at the other photo, you look at the back, the left one being the new one, you can see there's a massive difference. So not only is it a lot newer, but you can tell that corrosion definitely completely messed up that circuit board. So putting it all back together, placing it in, placing the battery in, sealing the cap, and voila, we have a working watch. So as you can imagine, it was a bit of a gamble to spend 43 American dollars on this part. Even though it was sealed, there's going to be no guarantee that it was going to work for a multitude of reasons, especially when I originally paid $2 for the watch. But however, in the previous part of the video, you saw that I was looking at an auction that was over $200 American. So I guess, you know, I paid about 60 odd Australian dollars, 65 odd Australian dollars for this. So, and it's a pretty nice watch. Like, as I said, I wear it every day. I use it quite a bit. It's very handy in my line of work because I can't check my phone easily, but if I want to know the time, I can just glance at my wrist, and there's going to be no distractions like emails or Facebook notifications with smartwatches. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That was the log. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. I definitely enjoyed making it. It is a video that I would like to do more of if there is the interest. So tell me in the comments what you thought. I did show a few other retro, or I guess vintage electronic devices that I own that I would personally be interested in making videos about. So if one of those sort of takes your fancy, then let me know and I will certainly consider it. But yeah, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.